because Trout Lake is the water source for the city of North Bay, isn't, since the Walkerton incident, isn't the mayor of the city now personally liable for the health of that lake? So is it potentially, I'm just gaming this out in my head, potentially, let's say, development goes through, everything, everybody's checked off all the boxes, but they didn't study one thing and it affected the water quality of that lake. Could the mayor of the city be personally liable for stamping the approval of the development of the lake?
Well, it's an interesting hypothetical question. Part of the concern here is that because lakes don't change overnight, right? It would take a while. And that's one of the concerns we have, because you could develop an additional 100 lots. You wouldn't start seeing changes in Trout Lake for maybe 5, 10, 20 years. So there's very few mayors nowadays who would really care whether the mayor 20 years from now is going to end up in jail, right?
Right.
And the other thing is that you can have a lot of damage to the lake. So one of the things that we love about Trout Lake, that I love about it, it's crystal clear. You can swim in it. There's no weeds. There's no algae scum. The rocks aren't slimy. That's because it has really, really low phosphorus. And it's what they call an oligotrophic lake. It is so clean that it has very few nutrients in the water. So one of the things that we know is going to happen with climate change, though, is that there will be more phosphorus, which is already locked up in the lake sediments, which is going to start being released. And it's a really complicated science thing, but we know that that's what happens when water starts warming up and you have less ice cover and all that kind of stuff. So that's one of the reasons that Lake Nipissing is so different from Trout Lake or even from Calendar Bay. Calendar Bay has a ton of phosphorus, and it has really bad blue-green algae blooms there. Blue-green algae blooms are increasing across Ontario because of climate change. The water's warming up, more phosphorus is being released from the sediments. So if you compare Trout Lake, it's what they call oligotrophic. It's super clean, really low nutrients. But climate change is going to change the temperature. So we're going to start losing dissolved oxygen, which is going to affect the few lake trout we have left. They won't be able to survive. And you're also going to start getting more phosphorus from the lake bottom mixing in the water. Blue-green algae, which are toxic, love phosphorus. And so that's one of the reasons that Calendar Bay, that beach gets closed regularly because of blue-green algae blooms. There's a lot of other lakes around here that are affected by blue-green algae blooms. You can't swim in the water. You can't let your dog in the water because it's poisonous. It's very difficult to remove the toxins from the water. It takes a really expensive treatment system.
Yeah, and I'll just say
and they're poisonous.
Yeah, the one thing I'll say, because from the Lake Nipissing Summit, I remember Ministry of Environment talking about that. So they were just talking about that over a period of time, I forget, it's a degree, maybe close to 2 degrees, that the temperature level has changed in Lake Nipissing. That's affected everything. Yeah. So they talked about Cache Bay and they talked about Calendar Bay. And it's again, it's highly complex. It isn't one thing. It isn't, right? Yeah. It's
a bunch of things all adding up.
It doesn't have a lot of flow. Right?
Yeah,
it doesn't have,
exactly.
So Cache Bay and Calendar Bay get these blue-green out, but these are the smartest people we know, right? And we don't have an answer for it.
Exactly.
We just know it's happening. So what I'm hearing from you, Liza, is this is really interesting because I'm hearing why you're proactive in this. It's like, look, here's what we know is going to happen. Yeah. And I'm not the smartest person in the room, but here's what we know is going to happen. So if you're going to start adding things and you're not testing it properly and all of these things aren't in place, this is a bad scenario that's going to play out.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're pro-build. I'm okay, but if you don't have the data in place, this is going to be bad. Yeah,
exactly. And also people in North Bay already pay high taxes, right? And to change the water quality in Trout Lake is going to affect people because, that new water plant that was built after Walkerton, it cost $60 million. And that was dead cheap because the water quality in Trout Lake is so amazingly good. Now, if the water quality in Trout Lake starts deteriorating, that water treatment plant won't be able to do its job anymore. Where are they going to get the money to add the additional functions to remove blue-green algae toxins? They're already looking at the whole PFAS problem. But like right now, that water treatment plant, it basically filters out any little particles and any parasites. So because the water is so clean, there's no chemical problems. By comparison, the water treatment plant for Callander, which draws from Callander Bay, they have to have really expensive treatment processes on their water treatment plant so that the water that is being given to the people of Callander is drinkable. And that's what North Bay will have to do if the water quality in Trout Lake deteriorates.
This is fascinating to me. We have a new client. His name is Wall Water. He's out of Manitoulin Island, and he specializes in water. And we've been educated just on. He explained to us that people like on the lake, on wells, things like that, they're in charge of their own water. And very few people test their water. Yeah. So part of what you're saying to me, you're talking about the water plant and how it affects me, where I get my water. Mm-hmm. So I would think with this conversation, most of the people on Trout Lake would be going, hey, but are they? Because
I don't think they realize.
If things go sideways, the
stuck.
money they'll have to pay to get water treatment for just to get it into their home will be massive.
Absolutely. And that has not been made clear to anybody, and it hasn't occurred to them. Even
on Trout Lake, the people on Trout Lake.
Well, we haven't heard people putting two and two together. Like everybody along Anita, they're not on water mains. Like they draw their water. Everybody down east in East Ferris.
Yeah.
The reason people lived there was because you could basically stick a pipe into the lake and drink this beautiful water for very little money.
Right.
And one of the things I used to do as a provincial officer was in Ministry of the Environment was go around and sample people's wells and try and figure out, why does your well stink? Why is it staining your laundry? And what kind of treatment system are you going to have to put in? That comes out of your pocket. It's not covered by anybody else.
And there's probably no one now today because of cutbacks going around doing that.
Well, it's all private industry. Yeah. No. No. There's no government people helping. You go to Culligan or sorry, I shouldn't be using company names, but you have to go to a water treatment company and hope you've got an honest guy who's going to give you fair advice about how much money you need to spend on a good water treatment system.
And this gentleman from Wall Water, he was like, very few people test it. They don't even want to test it before they sell it.
Oh, exactly.
Because they don't want to find out what's in the water.
Yeah.
That's kind of scary.
Oh, it is. Like my kid bought a house out in Nova Scotia and they wanted to live in the country. So I was talking to her, so has your real estate agent made sure the well's been tested? And she's going, the real estate agent didn't even know it was on a well. And I was like, so.
So you're zoned in on this. Is like,
this was my bread and butter.
This is a great conversation. Can Liza stay longer?
I would be happy to come back another time if you want to talk about it.
We might have to, actually.
Once you get me going, I won't stop. And my kids are like, Mom. No, I have more to say.
But just to wrap it up with a little bit of a bow for this part of the conversation, because it probably will be coming back after we do a couple more interviews with some other perspectives.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's the time frame right now for the report? I know that your group and as well as a couple East Ferris councillors are asking for another study of the study, which could cost another $100,000 for East Ferris. Might be more.
Yeah, I saw
North Bay. So what's the next step for you guys?
Well, and I was thinking about that on my drive down. I was thinking, I've been recommending that the city approach the Ministry of the Environment, and whatever it's called now, Environment, Conservation and Parks, and ask if one of their experts would be prepared to do a peer review on this study. It's certainly worth asking because there are people who know this inside out and backwards, and they could look at it and go, yeah, it looks good, or here's an area where you need to tweak it. So that could be free for the city. Or if that's not possible, I don't even know that it would cost $100,000. I think like what I would like to see is go for a peer review where they go to another consultant who's not, is basically on their own, independent, not part of these consultants, who could review it, who has the same expertise, the same training, and go, okay, we're all friends here, we're colleagues. I'm just going to, as a fellow scientist, I'm going to look at your scientific assumptions and comment on whether or not I think it's valid.